Hey guys, Philosopher here, and today I have my War Offense tier list for the month of June 2021. And this is a video that I generally do every single month. I outline what the best War Offense teams are, and I link below to my tier list. I constantly update it. But you might be wondering, hey, I didn't see a video last month. It's been a while since you updated this tier list, and that's true. And it's simply because the metas change so rapidly with power creep. So if you look at this tier list right now, I only have 2 teams in tier 1. Why is that? Because right now, this is even before Adam Warlock is in the game. Infinity Watch, even without Adam Warlock, can beat Heroes for Hire. And then there's a counter to Heroes for Hire that's been developed. But the entire meta revolves around Heroes for Hire. So I got to tell you, a month ago, I started working on this tier list with Kestrel in mind, because Kestrel changed the entire meta, changed what people were using on war defense, changed what people were using on war offense. And then as soon as Heroes for Hire came, it changed right again. And so I really waited until the meta got to a solved spot, where it got to a stable spot, and that's where we're at right now. This may change to an extent once Adam Warlock comes out, but I think this is a really good spot here. And the number 1 team on War Offense right now, even with only 4 members, is Infinity Watch. I've really built up this team. I put T4s into it. I put ISO into it. I do not yet have out my Red Star recommendations, my ISO recommendations, my T4 recommendations, because the full team isn't out yet. Okay, I think the Red Star priority and the T4s and all that may change once we have the full team, when we're doing mirror matches and arena and all that. But in war right now, this 4-person team is capable of beating Heroes for Hire with basically any kind of reasonable 5th character, whether it's Star-Lord or Namor or whomever else, a cleanser or whatever. This team is beating Heroes for Hire. That makes it a tier 1 war offense, because right now at high levels, I'm in diamond level war, it is all about beating Heroes for Hire. Really, that defense team is the defense team that scales insanely well at 700, 800K. It could be almost unbeatable if you're, let's say, in security. They've got Kestrel's a 5th, whatever. This is a team that could take it on and win consistently. So absolutely the best war offense team. Really beats everything else in the game right now. The power creep is real, and the power creep is insane. Now, let's talk about the other tier 1 war offense team, and that is a Heroes for Hire counter. And really, this counter has different variants. So, I'm not going to go over all of them here, but the core of it is making sure that you have 3 of the very best characters in the game. So you have Silver Surfer, Kestrel, and Black Bolt. So Black Bolt is actually resurged. Just recently we were talking about how he's been power crept, but right now, you have Kestrel here. Kestrel's ultimate prevents revives, so you can use her to erase a Heroes for Hire. They have that mechanic where they revive if they have charges. She prevents that on her ultimate. You have Silver Surfer removing charges with his ultimate. And then Black Bolt, when he kills a character, he can prevent it from being revived. And Black Bolt has really seen a resurgence in use now that Heroes for Hire are in the game. This may all change once we're all rolling our Infinity Watch and using them to counter instead. But for right now, people are literally breaking up what used to be multiple teams to create a counter where they're using all these top characters: Kestrel, Silver Surfer, Black Bolt. Sometimes people use Emma, Yo-Yo, Fury, Crystal. Really depends on the combo and your red stars and everything. You have to make sure that you keep track of who your lowest health is, your highest health is, also your highest damage. Those are the characters that are going to be targeted by Heroes for Hire. So it does take a little bit of practice to determine the best team for your roster. For example, some people use Fury. He doesn't work as well at 7 red stars, G15 for me. I use Yo-Yo instead, but other people use Fury. This is the team that counters Heroes for Hire at very high levels, even at 700, 800K. It does counter Heroes for Hire. It's what we use in the wars, what I see used against us. Teams of this variant, you've probably seen videos. This is another Tier 1 war offense team because it is capable of beating the only Tier 1 defense, and that's Heroes for Hire. All right, now we're going to move to Tier 2. Now, Tier 2 is an interesting one, because it's a team that actually revolves around Kestrel. And if you saw my Art of War video, you saw what this team was all about. Kestrel, Fury, Namor, Ultron, and Falcon, they can kill almost anything without it getting a turn, because Fury generates summons that will put hits out that Kestrel will ping based off of. Namor will take off speed bar from the enemy. Ultron has summons that will also generate pings, and also he takes off speed bar with the accelerator basic. Falcon generates speed bar for your team, so you basically just kill the enemy before they take a turn. And really, it's all about this passive, where if an enemy with defense down is attack the most injured enemy for 400% damage. That's what does it. This is an amazing team. If you want to see them in action, check out my Art of War video, which I have linked below. But the problem right now is you need Kestrel to counter Heroes for Hire. So until, the cool thing about this team is it used a bunch of spare parts with Kestrel to achieve great results. But until we have better counters for Heroes for Hire, you're probably going to need to use Kestrel in that team instead. Now, these, by the way, these are Tier 2 war offense teams, because these can beat some of the toughest Doom teams and other teams, but they cannot consistently beat they cannot consistently beat Heroes for Hire. One exception to this is Shadowland, and Shadowland, I think, has emerged as a much stronger team than Black Order. Black Order has fallen in these rankings, but Shadowland is a team that can punch down usually on a Heroes for Hire team, and at lower levels. When you've got, let's say, 300, 400K Heroes for Hire, they can win even sometimes on a punch across or a punch up. Here's my team. I have put out videos, and I have T4 guides on how to build this team and who to gear priority. You do want a big White Tiger. You want a big Night Nurse in particular. Here's the ISO setup here that you could see. It's a T4 dependent team, so if you don't have a bunch of T4s into this team, there's several essential T4s. Then it's not going to function properly. But once you have those T4s in, this is one of those teams that currently can beat almost every team out there. The problem is, at very high levels, it just gets outscaled by Heroes for Hire, so it can't beat Heroes for Hire. Also has a little bit of issue with Brotherhood Doom. It's a very tricky fight, but almost anything else, it beats very, very handily. That's why Shadowland is right there at the top, towards the top of Tier 2 war offense. Now, right next to them, a team that's actually been on the rise is XFactor. So, this is a team that obviously a lot of you are building up now, because XFactor is required for Adam Warlock, but it's so strong in its own right. And you guys have seen videos, if you've been following this channel for a while, you've seen videos with me using XFactor, usually against Marauders. Well, nowadays, you got a lot of teams that counter Marauders. Some people are breaking up Marauders. But, XFactor with a fifth like Squirrel Girl or Namor still, just totally destroys the Marauders. But some people use this team with Rhino against Brotherhood Doom, for example. Also, just a whole variety of other teams XFactor can beat. It's a team that I think has maintained its value more than Black Order. I think it's more important because whereas Black Order can't counter some of these more difficult Doom teams, XFactor can. Of course, there are rumors that XFactor is going to have a fifth member coming very soon that should make the team even stronger. So I think this team is on the rise, despite the fact that, people are building them up, now because they are a legendary unlock requirement. Very strong team, very versatile team that beats a lot of different teams on war offense. Now, the next team on this list is Black Order. They are still very powerful. They still beat a lot of teams, but you are starting to see at the highest level people moving Black Order to defense because they're kind of a utility team that beats a lot of teams, but they don't beat every team anymore. They could do okay against some Infinity Watch teams. They really can't put a dent on Heroes for Hire. Some of the harder Doom teams like Brotherhood Doom and Uncanny Doom, they really can't defeat reliably. So that, they're a good team. They beat almost everything, but they're not quite as versatile as Shadowland. I think they're a little worse than Shadowland. They're worse punching against a smaller hero for hire, for example, but they're a very good team. They still have value. They're going to be a top tier war offense team for a while, but the reason they're in tier 2, like most of these other teams, is they just cannot scratch heroes for hire. All right, and that brings us to our next tier 2 war offense team, and that is Skill Military. And boy, what a rise for Skill Military. This is a team that I think a lot of us were frustrated that we built up. It was a big disappointment, but after the rework, this team is really strong. Now, I will say I have as a note there, you need Black Widow on the team and a big Punisher. This is another one where I have a video and an infographic talking about how to build this team. You really need to have Black Widow. She enables this team to counter Mercs, and this is now the best Merc counter. You don't want Killmonger on the team. You want Black Widow, Punisher, Red Guardian, Yelena, and Merc Soldier. Merc Soldier's pass is just too good for him not to be on the team. But you want to have a big Punisher. He actually deletes people with his ultimate. He gets an additional attack here, so it ends up being a triple tap while he's a striker. He attacks on his primary with his ultimate, then he attacks a secondary time with the T4, then a third time if there's a vulnerable on that target. So very, very powerful. Usually can delete someone to make it a 5v4, but this is a team that reliably beats Mercs. It's such a silly counter. It's like so easy to counter Mercs now. They've dropped in their value as a result, and people now are using Hydra for other things because they can basically use Skilletary always against Mercs. But Skilletary has other uses. It could be great against Wave 1. It can be great against Marauders, depending on the size, or Sinister Six. Really, any team that relies a lot on buffs, they do very well against, particularly villain teams. Okay? All right. Now, another team that is very good and serves its purposes, but is not as good as maybe some people think it is Astonishing X-Men. Very strong team. I do feel like this team has gotten a little bit more hype than it deserves. It's a good team. It beats a lot of teams in war, but you really have to pick and choose your fight. So Astonishing X-Men is a good team. It reliably beats Sinister Six or any team that has a summon. It can beat some of the lesser Doom teams when people put together a silly Doom defense that is easily beaten by like Axemen or Symbiotes, where there's nothing that stops the team from just killing Doombots quickly to get turn meter. That, of course, comes from the Jubilee passive that gives turn meter whenever you kill an enemy, a 25% speed bar. But look, this team also can counter, for example, Uncanny. It's a versatile team. Can counter a number of other teams, but really doesn't put a dent in the strongest defenses, okay? Is not going to do anything against the good Doom teams or Heroes for Hire or anything like that. Some people early on were trying to throw Kestrel in instead of Kitty Pryde and taking on Heroes for Hire. It just doesn't work reliably. It's a good team. It's one of these teams, I think it's very, very good at the mutant section of the Doom Raid. That's what it is. I'd say otherwise it's a very good war offense team that counters a number of other teams, but is not necessarily the best choice against anything that's a very top war defense team. And so that's why it is towards the bottom of Tier 2. All right, so now we've got towards the very bottom of Tier 2, we have a team that is making its way on its list for the first time, and that's called Hell Hydra. So, this is a team that many of you suggested to me for a long time. You're like, hey, if you put Hela with your Hydra, you could just punch up big against Marauders. The problem was at the time was you needed Zemo on a Hydra team to kill Mercs, and then you needed Hela on a Hela Naturals team to kill Wave 1, so that didn't work. You wanted to have two top offense teams instead of one. But now, because you have Skilletary destroying the Mercs, you don't really need Hydra there anymore. And also Wave 1 has gotten busted up because Black Widow has moved off Wave 1 to Skilletary. So that means that now you could take Hela, Zemo, Grenadier, Red Skull, and a fifth. There's a number of options. Could be Loki. I think he's maybe the best choice, but there's plenty of Hydra minions you can pick. And that team does very well against Marauders and a number of other teams. Of course, part of what makes that very strong, is obviously Zemo is an amazing character. He does this ability block on turn 1. Then the Hela ultimate spreads it to the entire team. That has a devastating effect against a lot of different teams. All right, so that is now that because that team reliably beats Marauders, which is still a good team that otherwise would require one of these other enemies to defeat. It's at the very bottom of tier 2. Now we're going to go down to tier 3, and that's to the Symbiotes. And I got to tell you, this is a team that is really starting to see the power creep. They're really starting to fall more. And it's kind of interesting because, just a couple months ago, I was talking about how useful the Symbiotes were in war offense. And that's because people were making the mistake of putting their Symbiotes, putting their Doom on a team that was easily beaten by Symbiotes. So if you put Doom on a team that doesn't have a tank that can stop the Symbiotes from getting through it, like, let's say, Brotherhood has with Blob and Juggernaut, or Uncanny with Colossus, the Symbiotes will just go and get an unlimited turn meter with Carnage's passive by bringing the Doombots to low health, because they get 30% speed bar whenever an enemy gets to low health. But now that people aren't making that mistake, at least at high levels with Doom, right? Doom Marauders and so forth. Now that people aren't doing that, the Symbiotes don't have a lot of reliable enemies to defeat. And so, they do beat Sinister Six, which has a summon, but if there's no Sinister Six around, they can beat Pym. There are teams they can beat, but they're kind of like just basically beating up on lesser teams. A lot of people are moving them to defense now. I'm starting to see that a lot on high levels, just because Brotherhood are on defense with Doom a lot. So, this is a team that's starting to show its age. It's also showing its age in Doom Raid on difficulty 1. So, good team. Still important team because you need them for the city nodes in Dark Dimension. You need them for bio nodes in Doom Raid, at least for now, until they sell us a better solution. But the team just, is showing its age a little bit. And that's just part of how this game works with power creep. All right, now, next tier 3 war offense is going to be X-Force. And I got to tell you, this is a team that has really been on the downswing for quite a while. And the issue with X-Force is just that, X-Force really works, and you want to have your X-Force built this way, okay? You want to have a huge Negasonic, huge X-23, not a huge Deadpool. That's a kind of a noob move to have Deadpool big and these two smaller to make sure Deadpool's highest damage. Bad idea. Limits the scaling on your team by quite a bit. But you want to have a big Negasonic. The idea is for Negasonic to use her ultimate to get tons of damage out there, okay? And then that will activate the passive of X-23. She will get a speed bar because enemies are dropping below 50% health. And then she'll kill everyone with her ultimate. That's basically how the team's supposed to work. The problem is that this team now is a year old or almost a year old, and all of this power creeps happen, and the damage on this team is not kept up with that power creep. And so it's just the teams that this team reliably beats are all kind of second, third, fourth, tier teams, right? I use this team to beat Wave 1 with Coulson. I use this team to beat Fantastic Four on defense, but none of the really tough teams can be beaten here. They're used sometimes for cleanup, when you have half a team left, that sort of thing. They remind me a lot of Fantastic Four, a team that got power crept fairly quickly and needed a boost. Now, sometimes people are, using, dropping Deadpool for a better character, that sort of thing, to try to punch this team up a little bit, make them a little stronger, but they've definitely fallen down in importance. All right, now that brings me to the next team that has fallen in importance. What a fall for Hydra 3.0. Of course, this used to be such an important team. This is, of course, and I've done videos on this, Baron, Zemo, Red Skull, Grenadier, Winter Soldier, and then either Drax or Red Guardian. Now that Skeletor is out there, at the time before Skeletor's rework, this was the only way to beat mercenaries at a very high level. So mercenaries scale really, really well. At a 650k mercenaries really couldn't be beat by anything other than Black Order a few months ago. other than Hydra 3.0. Now, that is just unnecessary if you have Skeleton built up. So because a lot of players at high levels have Skeleton built up, you just are not seeing a lot of Hydra 3.0. But just to be clear, the way you build a team is to make sure Hydra Grenadier is the highest damage. The idea is that the Mercs keep attacking him because Taskmaster will put Taunt on the highest damaging character. Red Skull will keep resing Grenadier, and then Zemo will do his things against the minions in the team. In particular, he does all this increased damage against minions like Merc Right Guard and Merc Lieutenant. But definitely a less important team, definitely tier 3. Now, the next team may surprise you. This is Sinister Six, and Sinister Six is a team, that has really didn't, never had, its real day in the sun. Doc Ock is this legendary. The team introduced 2 new characters plus a legendary. They were very good in war for a while, but really what they do the best is they do punch up against Black Order on defense. If at your level of war you see that. I really still don't. I mean, I'm starting to see it a little bit at my level in war, but because, on the mirror match, Black Order can punch up big against Black Order, I still don't see it much. They also punch up really well against Wave 1, but that's a less important defense. So, on offense, they have limited use. And then the team really has issues on defense because Doc Ock's summon means that the symbiotes and X-Men usually eat them for lunch. So this is just a team that never really was as dominant as it could be. But it used to be more of like a low tier 1, top tier 2 defense. It's now kind of faded. A lot of people are moving them to offense and just using them against high buff teams where the real key ability here is the flip by Doc Ock to flip 2 positive effects to negative effects. But I have to say, I've also been seeing a lot of people just split up this team and use Doc Ock elsewhere. All right. Now, getting closer to the bottom of tier 3, we're going to a team that really has, kept its value for years, but has seen a decline in value over the last few months, and that on offense, and that's Brotherhood 2.0. So this Brotherhood 2.0 team is fantastic because it really has one fantastic trick that really carries the team, and that is, a lot of speed bar fill at the very beginning. If you have a full Brotherhood team for Magneto, then he ults, pulls everyone together, and blinds them. And that's really effective against a whole slew of teams, whether it's Pym or Technerva. Very effective against symbiotes if they're on defense, can punch up use there. But this team is just used a lot with Doom on defense. I know some of you at the beginning were laughing about that when you saw that in some of my earlier videos, but that is commonly what this team is used for now at diamond level. In war, it's all people removing Pyro and putting this team, because you have two taunts and Blob and Juggernaut, and Magneto's blind. It really prevents symbiotes from doing much of anything and makes it so you need a tougher counter. But this team is still effective on war offense years later, years after its release, simply because of that trick that Magneto has. I will also say Blob makes this team very strong. You want to have a huge Blob, and you want to have a T4 in his passive. That really helps make this team go. He has an amazing retaliation attack that removes turn meter and slows. All right. And so now we go to the very bottom of tier 3. And this is Uncanny. Uncanny has really, really, really been power crept even before Kestrel came in the game. And one of the things that really hurt Uncanny was Beast going to Axemen. Beast should be used with the Axemen, but if you are using Ultron and Beast, so you take off Psylocke, you put in Ultron and Beast, this team can still punch up against some certain teams, beats mercenaries and so forth. So this team can be effective, but it's just lost a lot of its oomph. A lot of people have very big X-Men, Uncanny X-Men teams because it used to be an arena team and so forth. If you do, I'm seeing more and more that this team is just thrown on defense. It does not counter enough teams effectively to be used on offense, and you have to basically use Ultron, who also, by the way, has really gone down in use, with them to try to make something more of this team. All right, and now we get to tier 4, and we're getting now to sort of the real bottom tier. I'm not going to go through these teams on my roster, but I'm just going to go through them. Hella Natural, I've done a whole video on. This is basically taking Elsa out and putting Hella on. This team was used primarily to counter Wave 1 back when Black Widow was on it, but now that she's gone, they don't have those speed ups to flip to speed down, and then or to slow. And then also there's Coulson is often on the team, and he really screws this up. Can erase one of your key characters early on with his ult. So just not very important. Really used only against Sinister Six at this point. Fantastic Four plus Ultron. It beats Uncanny, and it beats the Fantastic Four on defense, and it's okay against Marauders, but not reliable, particularly at high levels. Like if your Ultron gets cloned, it can be bad news. So just an okay team, really falling off. Fantastic Four are very limited use. Inhumans really aren't used as a team anymore. It's just all broken up for that counter for human heroes for hire. Uncanny X-Men without Beast are very, very worthless at high levels. Just usually thrown on defense. Zemo Hydra without Red Skull. Really, this was a team that was very good against the Red Skull Hydra defense, but at high levels you don't really see that much. You do sometimes see the team with Zemo at high levels, and when you do that, you can run Zemo Hydra there. But very niche team. And then these teams here, Supernatural, Fantastic Four without Ultron, Power Armor, and Wave 1 Avengers. These are all teams that are just not very useful at all at a higher level. I never see them run on offense at high levels, other than maybe cleaning up a team that's half dead or something like that. And then these teams here, I mean, really shouldn't be used much at all. If you're, I'm trying to make a video that works for everyone. So if you're, let's say in Gold 2 or something, you have to use your AIM team. I totally get it. But there are certain teams that an AIM-Tron team can work against, like a Astonishing X-Men, but you really see them usually used on offense. These teams are just not very effective overall. All right, guys, massive changes to the meta over the last couple of months. I hope this brings you up to speed. Meta's changed a lot. Lots of teams rising and falling, and we're going to see more of that, at least until the devs release more rooms. We're going to see more and more hybrid teams, but very exciting. If you like this video, this is always one of our popular ones. If you like this video, smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, check out our Discord. We have lots of great discussions about Alliance War there. It's below. Give me your thoughts below in the comments as well. I usually check that out. And also, check out our Twitch stream. That's linked below. We always do streams, usually on weeknights, and discuss Alliance War there as well.